So, happy Easter to everybody. Thank you for being understanding of my technology situation Thursday. It cut out in the middle of class, and they ended up, well, anyway, we had a lot of issues with what was going on in our neighborhood. They had to replace a telephone pole, yada yada. So, didn't really have stable internet until yesterday. Um, and today, Easter, is the first time I've had a chance to sit down and take a look at this paper for you guys and submit this for you. So thank you for being patient. And if you have questions after this very short video where we're going to look at the sample comparison essay, please let me know. So there's a couple things that I'd like for you to notice with this comparison essay. One of the first things is that the comparison is clear, but there's also part of the purpose and the more focused aspect of the comparison that appears even in the title. So it's clear that the writer is comparing minimalism versus hoarding. But what is that comparison going to amount up to? Well, here we have materials that define us. So we see some connection between these behaviors and identity. And that's what titles do, is they set up expectations. In looking at this introduction here, the writer does a very good job of leading us into the subject matter through these introductory sentences. So many times people can feel overwhelmed when it comes to cleaning their house. Many might think, I need a maid or a huge house to store everything. It's easy to think that if all the stuff collected in a house was organized in boxes, containers, and fancy dividers, then maybe we could have peace of mind. This is no easy feat, going through the possessions crammed in every corner of the house. Perhaps a memory is attached to a certain item, or maybe this object could be used for a future project. People hold on to things because they do not want to be wasteful, when ironically hoarding wastes their energy and space. However, there have always been people who do not live this lifestyle. Perhaps these kinds of people are extremely poor to own anything, or maybe they are wealthy enough to afford a maid and an enormous house. In some cases, that is the case, but there is another lifestyle called minimalism. Minimalism is a better approach to viewing material possessions versus a hoarder. It allows a person to have a focused mindset, better appreciation of possessions, and an overall more desirable quality of life. Something to notice is that the writer establishes a problem that's relatable, that we may feel overwhelmed with the things in our house. She then moves through and discusses how we have so many things because we don't want to be wasteful. And then she turns this view into that's actually a form of hoarding by having this much stuff, and contrary to what you might think, it actually wastes energy and space. Then the question of, is there an alternative, comes up. And so it naturally leads into a minimalist lifestyle versus a hoarding lifestyle. So it's a really smart way of using the introductory space. There's some other things in here that'll end up coming into play later, like the emotions that we attach to things. But ultimately, the thesis here, minimalism is a better approach to viewing material possessions versus a hoarder. It allows a person to have a focused mindset, better appreciation of possessions, and overall more desirable quality of life. Those things will be addressed throughout the paper. So here's the first common point, is how they view their possessions and that they value their possessions. But there's a difference in how they value their possessions. The difference between them is minimalist recognizes what possessions truly matter and which items are not needed. In contrast, hoarders have a harder time defining the line between what they need versus what they feel they need. And then we get the insertion of the first source, and notice how they use the signal phrase and give us some of the authority of the source. So GK, a writer for psychologists, at least we know what magazine this is being published in addition to the author, suggests hoarders as, rather than collecting rubbish, they saw their possessions as valuable and interacted with them regularly. Nonetheless, a distinction was made between items that were treasured, things I would save if my house was on fire, and those of a lesser value. A minimalist would reduce it down to what they would save in a house fire, and the necessities like food and clothing are what they own, and they cut out the rubbish. Even with sharing the same core value, which is that they have an emotional attachment to their things, what really drives these opposing lifestyles is the mindset. Oh, and then we go into the mindset. There's some great transitions in here. I'm not going to read the whole paper for you guys, but what I'd like for you to do is to go through and see how the writer shifts from one point to the next. So the first is that they both value their possessions, but in different ways. And that different way is the mindset which establishes the lifestyle. Notice how the author uses at least 2 quotes per paragraph. I would say that I would probably, suggest trying to use more than one source. She leans heavily on the same source, not the same, but the first 2 paragraphs each have one source, and she uses quotes from both of them. As she moves on, though, she starts to synthesize different sources, meaning she's using multiple sources to come to new conclusions. So I would like for you to take a look here. In this conclusion, the purpose is really solidified. So it's not just they're different. The significance of them being different is that they are better lifestyles, right? There's a better lifestyle when it comes to being a minimalist, and here are the reasons why. That's what the paper covers. So the conclusion sums this up. In contrast, the quality of life for a minimalist provides positive aspects. Although this lifestyle would be considered non-desirable in a consumer culture, they understand that more is not always better. It is centered around the quality of the possessions, not quantity. The strain of consumer culture materialism is lessened. With less focus on material possessions, the issues attached to materialistic values are eliminated. It allows minimalists to focus on more important things, family, experiences, or career, as opposed to the things. Focusing on these things can boost well-being and provide a sense of community or identity. There's nothing wrong with appreciating and valuing your possessions. However, it is clear having a minimalist mindset can be a healthier way of viewing them. The lifestyle can look different for everyone. There is no clear limit on how much and what a person should own. The main idea is hoarding things because guilt or holding on to the past can weigh someone down. No one should have to feel that way or in their space. It should be a place of peace, not overwhelming doom. The most important thing that should be taken from this is it is good to value what you have, but it should be a reflection of what you value most. And here's that purpose of not only is this a better lifestyle, but it's something that you should consider. I want you to think about your paper from a purpose standpoint. Why are you comparing the things you're comparing? Who is your target audience? And all these things came up in your topic proposal. But that should, be the focus of your conclusion without having to say, I hope that in this essay you will realize, you can emphasize the point without calling out the reader themselves. So those are some things I'd like for you to think about. Please make sure, as you're working on your rough drafts, so you include a works cited page. There's a minimum number of sources, which is 4, but going above and beyond is going to help you with having a stronger essay and having multiple sources in your essay. So with that, I'm going to conclude this little overview of the paper that we didn't get to look at last class. And please feel free to email me any questions you have. I hope you have a good Easter holiday with your family, loved ones, whoever you're with. And I will see you guys in our class on Tuesday.